Am I going to end up pissing off a lot of people with this video? Probably. What's going on? RecBCQ signing on for another episode of Rex Room. After releasing my first Digimon video, I was searching my mind for more Digimon ideas. Most of them were based on custom art. However, I ended up remembering an idea I had forgotten about until now. Since I was actually quite fond of this idea, as well as having a lot of concepts for it, I felt now was a perfect time to explore it. As you can see from the title, I'm talking about my idea for the perfect Digimon game. As most Digimon fans know, the series did not start off as a game franchise. It started as an alternate version of Tamagotchi that was meant to market to boys. It proved to be popular and evolved, or should I say, digivolved, into a popular multimedia franchise. While I'd say that the anime is probably the most well-known part of the franchise, the series is not foreign to video games. The problem with the Digimon games is that the majority of them prove to be divisive. In conversation regarding these games, most people feel the need to emphasize the bad parts to the games first. They say that it's good if you can get past its flaws. Well, of course every game has its flaws. It is concerning that Digimon fans have to emphasize those to try and convince others to play it. My goal for today is to pitch an idea for a Digimon game that would appeal to a wider range of people. Keep in mind that my ideas involve flawless logic and are objectively true. My concept is going to become clear to you all once I explain how I came up with the idea. The origin of this idea came from Digimon Survive, as well as Xenoblade Chronicles 3, which released the exact same day. To put it simply, I want to see a Digimon game that pulls from that franchise. I know that the idea of pulling from another franchise may be upsetting to many of you, but once I elaborate, I think you'll understand where I'm coming from. Anyone who's seen my Twitter account may already know this, but I absolutely love Xenoblade Chronicles. After beating my first Xenoblade game in Xenoblade Chronicles 2, it surpassed the Pokemon series as my favorite game of all time. Me saying I also preferred Pokemon over Digimon will probably upset a lot of you too, but I promise I still love this franchise. It's just that I find that Pokemon beats Digimon in terms of games. Though, in terms of story, I think Digimon might win there. But that's totally subjective. Getting back to my original topic, Xenoblade Chronicles ended up becoming my favorite game series of all time after playing Xenoblade Chronicles 3. XC3 also surpassed XC2 as my favorite game of all time. The long and short of it is that I'm extremely biased, so I understand if you disagree with my opinion. I just ask that you be respectful if you make that difference in opinion known. As for why I've adopted this idea, it comes down to the game's focus on exploration and story. For anyone who has watched a Digimon anime, especially Digimon Adventure, you would know that characters and story are very important to the show. Exploration is also prominent as the main cast starts off by being thrown into the digital world, having to traverse the world in hopes of finding a way back home. In terms of the Digimon games, most of them do not follow this formula, at least not in the same way. There are some games like the Digimon World games that take place in the digital world, but they tend to not focus on the idea that these humans came from the real world. Other games, like Digimon Story Cyber Sleuth and Hacker's Memory, do put a focus on that aspect, but the environments are not as varied as in the anime, as well as being mazes instead of explorable areas. Because of these aspects being missing, I feel that the games tend to lose a lot of the charm that the anime has. That's why I think Xenoblade would be such a good fit for the Digimon series. Those games put the main focus on the world, the characters, and the story. You feel like you are in a living, breathing world. You also become invested in the story and grow a deep connection with the characters you're playing as. I want that for Digimon. Most of, if not all Digimon fans have pondered what it would be like to visit the digital world and be given a partner Digimon of their own. I know I want to be able to explore the digital world myself with a reliable and loyal friend by my side. That's my goal for this game. Digimon Survive was the one game that I felt best captured this experience. Being that it was designed to harken back to Digimon Adventure, it followed the same formula in terms of the story. This was done by making the game into a visual novel. Of course, there were the tactical RPG elements as well, but it was obvious that the visual novel elements were the most important to the developers. I found that this game was the most fun I've had playing a Digimon game, despite being in a genre I generally don't play. Both the visual novel and tactical RPG elements. If this game was able to capture my attention that much, I feel that it is valuable to revisit this type of story. Before we get into the actual pitch, I want to clarify that I don't want this game to just be a Xenoblade game with a Digimon skin. While I obviously like that type of gameplay, it would be illogical for Bandai to do this. Not only would it likely interfere with making the game feel like a Digimon game, but it would mean that the game will inevitably be compared to the Xenoblade Chronicles franchise. I don't mean to be pessimistic when I say this, but I am nearly 100% convinced that even if the developers perfectly captured the essence of Xenoblade, people would still call it a cheap ripoff. Now it's time to get into the pitch itself. For the sake of not being redundant, I'll just establish now that the story will follow the Digimon anime/survive formula. The characters will follow suit and have roughly 5 to 8 characters in the main cast. I personally want 8 characters to reflect adventure. How the game will handle the party will be like the traditional JRPG party. This means that unlike the Digimon story series, there will not be any instances of the characters capturing more Digimon in the wild. They'll have their partner, and that will be it. For those who might not like this idea, don't worry. I've thought of ways to compensate for this. The reason for this decision is that I feel it would take away from the characters and their partners. One of the most enjoyable parts of the anime is that we get to see the humans interact and form a close bond with their partners. As you can gather from how often I create OCs for these videos, I highly value characters and their development in the media I consume. Like I said, I had thought of ways to compensate for the lack of Digimon you control. Specifically, I have 2 features that I wish to include for that reason. The first one hinges on how evolution works in Digimon. As you know, technically any Digimon can evolve into any other Digimon. While in the anime we often have evolution lines specifically crafted for each Digimon, the V-Pets in the games take full advantage of that part of the world's lore. This will be the case here as well. In an ideal world, each Digimon in the party would have 3 branches of evolution they can access, branching off at rookie level. For the sake of the story, I would probably still have an intended evolution line, but you can unlock other evolutions by doing side quests and fulfilling certain requirements. If it wasn't clear from what I've already mentioned, you won't have to play through the game multiple times to unlock every evolution. To make sure you have full control of your party, you'll be able to unlock everything your first time through. As well as that, you can specifically choose what Digimon you want to use as long as you have it unlocked. You can even use Digimon of a level lower than what you've unlocked if you desire. If the Digimon were handled like this, it would provide the player with a plethora of options and ways to customize their party and playstyle. Of course, each line will play differently and fill different roles. That way, no one Digimon feels exactly the same. I don't plan on going too far into the plot of the game, considering all of you are probably well acquainted with this type of story. Though, if you guys want, I can go further into that in another video. For now, I'll just mention some of my thoughts for partner Digimon the characters could have. In Digimon Survive, the developers limited themselves to only using Digimon that were released before a certain point. This is evident even in the main cast Digimon. Personally, I don't feel the need to do that. That will become more clear later when I start explaining how the world will be in this game. Previously I mentioned I wanted to have roughly 5 to 8 party members. I decided at the beginning of the game there would be 7 party members, like what happened in Adventure. They would probably be separated at first, but it wouldn't take long for them to find each other. The Digimon I'd like to see used here would be Gaussmon, Lylemon, Fanbemon, you're welcome Karn, Hyokomon, also you're welcome Karn, Sangomon, Pamumon, and Pulsemon. I feel like these are all fun Digimon that deserve more love, as well as serving different roles for partners. Specifically, they parallel partners from Adventure, though the parallels stop at the type of Digimon they are. Adventure covers a wide range of Digimon and the partners, so I thought it was a good model for these partners. Gaussmon replaces Agumon, Lylemon replaces Gabumon, Fanbemon replaces Tentomon, Hyokomon replaces Biomon, Sangomon replaces Gomamon, Pamumon replaces Palmon, and Pulsemon replaces Patamon. Well, he kinda does. I didn't choose Pulsemon with the intention of it being a direct parallel. I didn't want to do another Holy Digimon, so I chose a Digimon that I just thought deserved a partner. Pulsemon does feel more like a partner for a lead protagonist, but my justification is that it's replacing Patamon at TK. In both the original and 2020 versions of Adventure, Patamon, or more accurately Angemon, are shown to be very powerful and more special than the others. I think Pulsemon would be good to fulfill that role. I don't plan on going into every evolution that each partner gets, but I thought it would be fun to discuss the megas for each of them. For one, I would have Gaussmon's mega be Zeke Greymon. I thought it would be fun to do that so we can see the Greymon family, like in the other anime seasons, but do it in a different way. I do understand, though, that it might not please everybody, so I'll give the alternative of Dorbeckmon. I also think he would be a good choice. For Lylemon, I wanted him to go down the Leomon line, which would either end with Heavy Leomon or Saber Leomon. Not only do I just like those Digimon, Heavy Leomon especially, but I also thought it would be nice to have Leomon not die for once. It's kind of a funny theme that he just can't stay alive, but he deserves to be thrown a bone. For Fan Beamon, I chose Tiger Vespamon. This is the one time where I chose the Mega before the Rookie. Originally, I wanted to use Kokabuterimon here, but then I remembered Tiger Vespamon and had to use him. Not only does he subvert the trope of insect megas being very bestial, but he's a good design that I don't believe has made many appearances. The rest of his line showed up recently in Digimon Adventure 2020, but I don't think he ever did. He might have shown up later, but I wouldn't know since I haven't finished that season yet. Perhaps I'll go back to it now that I'm making Digimon content. Pulling from the traditional line for Hyokomon, I chose Chronomon Holy Mode. For the sake of game balancing, he wouldn't be as strong as he usually is, but still plenty capable. Partially I chose this because it is Hyokomon's canon mega, but it's just more fun than using any of the other bird megas, which are a bit too similar for my liking. For Sangomon, I'm also choosing its canon mega in Regalicusmon. Again, part of the reasoning for it is that it's the canon mega, but my primary reasoning is a lot more simple than that. Regalicusmon is dope as hell. Sorry, I lost my cool there. But yeah, the long and short of it is that I just really like his design and wanted to see him be used more. For Pamumon, I went for Bloom Lordmon as its mega. Hydramon is also a great choice, but I had a specific reasoning for this. In the majority of Digimon media, we see female characters get plant-based Digimon. From Mimi, to Yoshino, to Saki, and arguably Yoli if you count Shirimon. Because of that, I felt it would be interesting to have a male character use a plant-based Digimon. Of course, Bloom Lordmon is obviously supposed to be the male counterpart to Rosemon, Lotusmon, and Refleximon. As well, it's just an awesome plant Digimon. One of my favorites, actually. Considering I've used the traditional megas for most of these partners, I think you've probably guessed that Kazuchimon will be Pulsemon's mega. I know that this line is probably the most generic line in the Pulsemon family, but personally, going from Pulsemon to Kazuchimon is my favorite line. Also, it doesn't even matter, because we still have 2 other branches to fit more wild evolutions. You know, I'm starting to realize that the majority of the megas have blades of some kind. That wasn't intentional, but I'm just gonna roll with it. Moving on from that partner-focused tangent I just went on, I should probably go back to the topic of how I'll compensate for not catching more Digimon. My second idea for this is that you would encounter more human and Digimon pairings along your journey. You could recruit these characters to build up your roster. This would be similar to the heroes in Xenoblade Chronicles 3. You would meet them and complete a side quest before you could recruit them. They would function somewhat differently than the main cast. What I mean by that is the optional characters would only have one evolution line. That would make it easier to implement more characters. If each optional character had that many forms, I don't think we would get many more, if any. Because of that, I felt the need to limit it. You may have been wondering why I specifically chose 7 characters instead of the 8 I said I preferred. This mechanic was why I did so. In most seasons of the anime, we get a new character that fills what can be called the 6 Ranger archetype. Originating from series like Super Sentai, or Power Rangers in the US, there is a type of character that joins the party later on and is special in some way. Like I said, this is often used in Digimon. I figured that this would be the perfect way to show off the hero mechanic. They would be the one hero in the game that is unlocked in the main story. Because they're special and considered a main character after their introduction, they get the privilege of having branching evolution lines. Like I did with the other main characters, I felt it would only be fair to talk about what I picked for this character. For this, I wanted to go the route of a darker character being in this role. This is like what happened in Digimon Adventure 02 and Digimon Frontier, with Ken and Koichi respectively. Like I said, I didn't want to go the holy route like with TK and Kari. Specifically, I chose Vemmon. Being introduced in Digimon World 3, this Digimon had not been used since then, but recently Vemmon and its evolutions have been added to the Digimon Encyclopedia. Personally, since I have never played Digimon World 3, this was the first time I had heard about it. I thought it was awesome. To me, it seemed like a great Digimon to make a partner. As for what its mega could be, I'm not really sure. I know that it has a whole evolution line, but to me, Ragnamon and Destromon are a bit too over-designed to be partner Digimon. They're just too bulky, in my opinion. That makes sense, however, since they weren't meant to be that. Again, I haven't played the game, but to my knowledge, they were the main villain of the story. They were specifically designed for that purpose, so naturally, they wouldn't fit the hero role. If I had my way, I would have Venmon get a new Ultimate and Mega, but I'm committed to using existing Digimon only for this video. Perhaps if I do that sequel I mentioned earlier, we can explore that, but for now we'll just say Destromon for the sake of simplicity. After all, this is the Special 6 Ranger character. Okay, now that I've covered all that, I will now discuss the battle mechanics. I'm not covering it. Moving on. Okay, it's not that simple. While I'm not concerned with the battle system as much, I'll at least talk a little about it. Like in the normal Digimon series, the Digimon would be the one fighting. In this case, the humans would be watching from the sidelines. Imagine the driver and blade dynamic from Xenoblade Chronicles 2, but this time it's the blade on the front lines. As for the battle style itself, it would still be a real-time action RPG, though I don't plan on ripping off Xenoblade's battle system. It would be its own thing. This is where I stop explaining it. I don't know enough about video game battle systems to create one of my own. It's not really the most important for this video anyways. As for the world itself, it would consist of large open areas, much like Xenoblade Chronicles. However, the landscape of this world would be far different to Xenoblade. The digital world, while having some similarities to the real world, has fantastical elements to it. From towns that are made from toy bricks to dungeons with data lining the walls. There are a lot of opportunities to create unique landscapes that you wouldn't see elsewhere. As for some of the exploration itself, there are plenty of opportunities to add things to do in these areas. For one, as we see in the anime, Digimon don't necessarily congregate in towns like humans do. Since they are technically animals, they can be found in every corner of the world. Whether it be in forests, deserts, oceans, and tundras, you can find Digimon everywhere. We also know that Digimon can either be intelligent or more primitive. That means Digimon can be incorporated into the game as enemies or NPCs. One of the benefits of having Digimon as part of the party is that they can be an easy way to give the players more ways of traversing the land as they progress. As the partners digivolve, their evolutions could have abilities that are suited to traversing certain areas, like Sankomon could evolve into another aquatic Digimon that could help explore the net ocean, or one of the partners evolves into a Digimon with wings to move faster around the world and reach heights they previously couldn't access. Of course, there would be evil Digimon that would appear during the story as well. In a similar vein to the villain of the Weak formula, the main evil Digimon would send their minions to take out the party. It would be a good way to introduce bosses into the story. Side quests could also have appearances from the henchmen as well. As any RPG would have nowadays, this game would include side quests, whether it be helping a group of Digimon avoid a predator or stopping the destruction of a settlement. There would be multiple things the party could do to help the inhabitants of the digital world. As I said before, these would also be the key to unlocking different evolution paths or recruiting more heroes to their ranks. Of course, this would also serve as a way to learn more about the party, getting to see the different characters interact with each other in fun ways as well as add to their character development. Considering there would be 16 party members total when you count the Digimon and humans separately, there would be so many combinations of characters that could interact. Perhaps we see two humans interact, or of course a human with their partner. You could see the Digimon interact with each other, or a human that isn't their partner. This is important to the game as a whole because the character development was always so important to the Digimon anime. All the humans would have something about them that was relatable. They have hopes and dreams that the audience can sympathize with. They have real-world problems to deal with when they aren't trying to save the world. If this was missing, it would lose the charm the anime had. Getting back to the environment, the digital world would not be the only place we explore over the course of this game. Like we established earlier, this story would start in the real world. It's a vital part of the story as it's what motivates the group to explore. It also motivates them to want to take down the villains since eventually their world would be threatened as well. I feel that in order to fully orchestrate this idea, we need to be able to explore the real world, even if it's only for a small time. We would be able to see the party interact with more humans as well as their family. In this time, we would get a feel for what their lives were like before the start of this journey. The player would be able to get a better understanding of what the party is really fighting for. We might not be able to relate to trying to save the world from some big bad, but we understand what it feels like to worry about the safety of our loved ones. The player can get a greater appreciation for these characters as they get to see another side of them. One other point I'd like to address regarding this game is that I think this would be a perfect introduction to the world of Digimon. This series can be very confusing for newcomers. There are so many different aspects of the digital world. With an expansive world like the one I desire for this game, it would be easy to incorporate the lore into the world. Perhaps at one point we have to collect Digizoids so the D Brigade can strengthen their defenses, or maybe there's a tribe of Digimon that worship the Digimentals. The party helps them harness their power to armor Digivolve and protect their land. Perhaps late game we come across groups like the Ancient Warriors or the Royal Knights. We can even have it that for a time one of the party's Digimon gets infected with the X antibody. I specifically would want to see Gaussmon turn into the new Greymon Blue X antibody form. There are so many opportunities to incorporate the lore of the world. It would make the game even more fun as the side quests would be so much more varied than they would be without it. The game would essentially serve as a crash course on the Digimon franchise. To end off, I would like to mention a more minor detail in terms of the scope of this video, but would be fun to discuss nonetheless. As you see in a lot of Digimon games, this game is an opportunity to introduce more new Digimon. Since the game isn't restricting itself to stick to a certain era like Survive did, we could do whatever we want in terms of new Digimon. If the developers wanted, they could even introduce a new type of evolution. I know that I already established a whole roster of Digimon to be the party, but hypothetically we could totally forego that and make the party consist of all new Digimon, except for the branching evolutions. It would be a bit overboard to introduce 10 new Digimon, 12 if you count Baby and in Training, for all 8 protagonists. Like I mentioned with the story of the game, I would also be open to doing another video where I commission new Digimon to fill the roles of these partners. However, that would be a lot of money and probably take multiple videos to complete. Because of that, I would really need to see a lot of enthusiasm for the idea to deem it worth exploring. We have covered a lot of ground over the course of this video. I went far more in depth than I had intended to when I was conceptualizing this video. Since that is the case, it would mean a lot to me if you would like this video. This was a lot of video to make, so I want to know that the effort I put into this was worth it. That being said, I desperately want to end this video. Please like, comment, subscribe, and hit that bell to be notified when new videos come out. Thank you so much for watching. This is RecBCQ, signing out.